All right, so if we don't really want to beat on things, and sometimes it's even just easier to do this, what we can do is we can install certain types of bearings with heat. Okay, what do I mean with heat? Well, essentially, if you heat up metal, it will expand, and if it expands, like this hole will get bigger and then make it easy to slide down on there, onto the shaft. So that's what we're going to do over here. Now I have this hot plate, I already started it, and a few things that you're going to notice is that the bearing is sitting on this little knob, if you would. That is very important because you don't want to set the whole bearing on there because you don't want to cook the entire bearing. Rather, what you want to do is you want to focus the energy from the hot plate through this and then just to that inner race. The other thing that you want to really take in consideration is, and be mindful of, is how hot this thing is getting. Because if we get it too hot, we can get rid of our lubrication, which would be bad, okay? And we don't want to do that. So what we want to do is we want to be very mindful about how much heat we're putting in the inner race. So I have this little infrared thermometer here, and I'm going to try not to touch anything to not get burnt. And I'm going to try to touch exactly where I want to measure, which is on that inner race. I want to be careful not to get things too hot here. Okay, it doesn't feel like it's terribly hot. It doesn't feel like it's 219 degrees yet. Okay, that's a little better. I must have been hitting the hot plate. Right there, I have about 134 degrees or so. Definitely want to keep it under 250 degrees. If this thing starts smoking, that is definitely an indication that there's a problem. Now, you'll notice that it's on high. I'm going to try to do this reasonably quick. So again, we're going to be watching our temperature. All right, we're at about 200 and, okay, right on the knob here, we're about 160 degrees. So I'm going to let this go for just a few more moments. And then I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. While this is heating up, it's going to take a little bit of time to get that heat into my bearing. But I'm going to watch this like a hawk, 170 degrees or so. Because what I don't want to do is, yeah, the hot plate itself is at 285 degrees, so that's not good. So I'm going to keep an eye on this, and I'm about at 180 at this point, okay? So I'm still getting some heat in here. I'm going to go ahead and turn this off at this point because the heat is still going to come into the bearing, and I'm about 159 degrees. All right, I think I'm getting kind of close, and it's warm. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my gloves here, and I'll put those on because I really don't want to get burnt, especially being that close to the hot plate. But I'm going to pick this thing up, all right? And I'm going to go ahead and, whoop, look at that, slid right on down into place, okay? So that little bit of heat right there, that's about 150. This is probably a little bit less than that. Kind of hard to get a good reading on it, but this is on that shaft, and you'll notice that it still has some heat in it because I was able to slide it right down on there. So again, this is a common practice. A few things to keep in mind is that heating rubber up like that, probably not a good thing, but you can as long as you maintain that temperature, okay, and the temperature doesn't get too high. This is cool to the touch. If you get it that warm, it makes just enough dimensional difference to where you can slide those bearings down on there. Now again, taking them off, totally different story because you're not going to be able to get the heat into that as easily. You might be able to heat up the shaft, but I have a O-ring here I might melt. I'm going to cause some other issues if I try to heat it up and get it off the shaft, but it can happen if you have the right tools. Again, I'm still a little bit on the warm side. This thing is sliding right on and off. But again, as soon as it cools down, it's going to be in a situation to where it's not going to be able to go on, just as you see with this right here. All right. So again, heating a bearing, 250 degrees is critical. Let's not get past that.